I joined late. I know we are late already. I should have joined before now. So I'm really sorry for coming late. I had other things I was doing. I'm so sorry. So let's just go straight to it. For people that are just joining us, you're welcome. We're doing a series on reading this book, and you're currently reading chapter 4. And yeah, so to check chapter 1 and 2 and 3, you can check our previous videos. It is there. It's there on my channel, so just check it out. But I don't want us to waste time because we're already late. So remember, we did not finish chapter 4 yesterday. We didn't finish it because it was quite voluminous. So we're going to just and we finish it. I've already one chapter for 2 days now because we're getting deep. We're talking about words of affirmation, and we talked about words of encouragement. We talked about compliments, and we talked about kind words. That was what. So we are still on the kind words. So let's just proceed. So the manner in which we speak is exceedingly important. An ancient sage once said, "A soft answer turns away anger." When your spouse is angry and upset and lashing out words of it. Okay, I think I read this part yesterday, but let me just read it. So just to if you choose to be loving, you will not okay, if you choose to be loving, you will not reciprocate with additional it, but with a soft voice. You will receive what he is saying as information about his emotional feelings. You will let him tell you of his hurt, anger, and perception of events. You will seek to put yourself in his shoes and see the event through his eyes, and then express softly and kindly your understanding of why he feels that way. If you have wronged him, you will be willing to confess the wrong and ask forgiveness. If your motivation is different from what he is reading, you will be able to explain your motivation kindly. You will seek understanding and reconciliation, and not to prove your own perception as the only logical way to interpret what has happened. That is mature love to which we aspire if we seek a growing marriage. Love doesn't keep love doesn't keep a score of wrongs. Love doesn't bring up past failures. None of us is perfect. In marriage, we do not always do the best or right thing. We have sometimes done and said hurtful things to our spouses. We cannot erase the past. We can only confess it and agree that it was wrong. We can ask for forgiveness and try to act differently in the future. Having confessed my failure and asked for forgiveness, I can do nothing more to mitigate the odds it may have cost my spouse, of course, because you've said it already. You've said a lot of hurtful things to your spouse and you cannot take it back. That's the thing. So that's why they advise that when you're angry, don't say too much, or don't even talk at all, because you'll be surprised at how much things you will say when you're angry. And the words has been said, it cannot be taken back. So yeah, think before you get angry. Anger is a fool. When I have been wronged by my spouse and she has painfully confessed it and she requested forgiveness, I have the option of justice or forgiveness. If I choose justice and seek to pay her back or make her pay for her wrongdoing, I am making myself the judge and her the felon. Intimacy becomes impossible. If, however, I chose to forgive, intimacy can be restored. Forgiveness is the way of love. I'm amazed by how many individuals mess up every new day mess up every new day with yesterday. They insist on bringing into today the failures of yesterday, and in so doing, really wonderful day. That's why some people, when you see them in the morning and they're aggressive, be like, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Because why are you so angry? Why are you transferring your aggression on me? You can't possibly know how much you hurt me. I don't know. Okay, to pollute a wonderful day. I can't believe you did it. I don't think I'll ever forget it. You can't possibly know how much you hurt me. I don't know how you can sit there so smugly after you treated me that way. You ought to be crawling on your knees, begging me for forgiveness. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Those are not the words of love, but of bitterness and resentment and revenge. So it's better to just settle your score before the next day. Settle it the previous day. Don't bring it into a new day. The best thing you can do with the failures of the past is to let them be history. Yes, it has happened. Certainly it hurt, and it may still hurt, but he has acknowledged his failure and has asked for your forgiveness. We cannot erase the past, but we can accept it as history. As history. We can choose to live today free from the failures of yesterday. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a commitment. It is a choice to show mercy, not to hold your offense up against the offender. Forgiveness is an expression of love. I love you, I care about you, and I choose to forgive you. Even though my feelings of hurt may linger, I will not allow what has happened to come between us. I hope that we can learn from this experience. You're not a failure because you have failed. You are my spouse, and together we will go on from here. Those are the words of affirmation expressed in the dialect of kind words. So even if your partner has hurt you, your partner has said a lot of things, they've damaged, you and all of that, just be kind. You don't have to like lash out to them. You don't have to take it. You don't have to respond back with them in that manner as well, because the problem will not be settled. Like it won't be settled. So if your partner has done anything wrong, just find a way to just let them know what they've done and say it in a kind way. So we have humble words. Love makes requests, not demands. When I demand things from my spouse, I become a parent and she the child. It is the parent who tells the 3-year-old what he ought to do, and in fact what he must do. That is necessary because the 3-year-old does not know yet how to navigate in the treacherous waters of life. Treacherous waters of life. In marriage, however, we are equal adult parents. We are not perfect to be sure, but we are adults and we are partners. If we are to develop an intimate relationship, we need to know each other's desires. If we wish to love each other, we need to know what the other person wants. The way we express those desires, however, is all important. If they come across as demands, we have erased the possibility of intimacy and we will drive our spouse away. If, however, we make known our demands and desires as requests, we are giving guidance, not ultimatums. The husband will say, those apple pies, you make. Would it be possible for you to make one this week? I love those apple pies. He's giving his wife guidance on how to love him and thus build intimacy. On the other hand, the husband will say, haven't had an apple pie since the baby was born. Don't guess I'll get it any more apple pies for 18 years. Don't guess I'll get any more apple pies for 18 years. Has ceased being an adult and has reverted to adolescent behavior. Such demands do not build intimacy. Thank you for joining. The wife who says, do you think it will be possible for you to clean the gutter this weekend? Is expressing love by making a request. But the wife who says, if you don't get those gutters cleaned out soon, they are going to fall off the house. They already have trees growing out of them. Has ceased to love and has become a domineering spouse. Yeah, so in demand, and the way you request will be in a and kind way, not in a demanding way, not with a demanding tone. You're not doing like you don't want to come as a dominant. You don't want to dominate your spouse. You want them to see you as as who they married, as who they got married to, not as somebody that just wants command, somebody that just wants your spouse to do whatever you say. Like this marriage, we are both in it. It is a partnership. So you cannot just be making demands like, I want this, I want you to prepare this for me, I want you to do this for me, I want you to do that for me. It won't work that way. So in marriage, it is not a demand, it is a request. It's love. When you make a request of your spouse, you are affirming his or her worth and abilities. You are in essence indicating that she has something or can do something that is meaningful and worthwhile to you. When, however, you make demands, you have become not a lover but a tyrant. Your spouse will feel not affirmed but belittled. A request introduces the element of choice. Your mate may choose to respond to your request or deny it, because love is always a choice. And that's what makes it meaningful. To know that my spouse loves me enough to respond to one of my requests, communicate emotionally that she cares about me, respects me, admires me, and wants to do something to please me. We cannot get emotional love by way of demand. My spouse may in fact comply with my demands, but it is not an expression of love. It is an act of fear or guilt. It is an act of fear or guilt or some other emotion, but not love. Thus, a request creates a possibility for an expression of love, whereas a demand suffocates that possibility. So we have various dialects. Words of affirmation are one of the five basic love languages. Within that language, however, there are many dialects. We have discussed a few already, and there are many more. Entire volumes and numerous articles have been written on these dialects. All of the dialects have in common the use of words to affirm one's spouse. So under the words of affirmation, we have discussed 4 dialects now, which is compliment words, then kind words, then humble words, then let me check the 4th one, encouraging words. Yeah, so compliment words, encouraging words, kind words, and humble words. They are dialects under words of affirmation. If you're not taking anything at all, just know these ones. If you don't know anything at all in this book or in chapter 1, know this. So all of the dialects, psychologist William James said that possibly the deepest human need is the need to feel appreciated. Words of affirmation will meet that need in many individuals. If you're not a man or a woman of words, if it is not your primary love language, but you think it may be the love language of your spouse, let me suggest that you keep a notebook titled Words of Affirmation. So if words of affirmation is not your primary love language, but you know that your partner loves it, wants to hear it every day, so just get a book and tag it words of affirmation. Like, write the words, the things that you know that he loves to hear, write all of them down. Then by so doing, you'll be reciting it, you'll be learning it on your own. Then because you're doing this regularly, you'd unconsciously start saying it to him. In fact, sometimes when you say it or say it to her, surprise at yourself. You'll be like, how did I? But because you've been studying, you've been meditating on the word, so you just effortlessly just say it to him or you say it to her. When you read an article or book on love, record the words of affirmation you find. When you hear a lecture on love or you overhear a friend saying something positive about another person, write it down. In time, you will collect quite a list of words to use in communicating love to your spouse. So if words of affirmation is not your primary love language, so and you know that your partner, he or she loves to hear words, they love it, that is their primary love language, just get a book, start writing all the old of the words that you can hear. If you hear it on the TV or you're listening to a show, you hear anything nice, just write it down and start meditating on it and start using it on your partner. You may also want to try to give in indirect words of affirmation, that is saying positive things about your spouse when he or she is not present. And eventually someone will tell your spouse and you will get full credit for love. Tell your wife's mother how great your wife is. When a mother tells her what you said, it will be amplified and you will get even more credit. Yeah. Also affirm your spouse in front of others when he or she is present. When you are giving public honor for an accomplishment, be sure to share the credit with your spouse. You may also try your hand at writing words of affirmation. Written words have the benefit of being read. over and over again. I remember when I celebrated my birthday this year, the first gift I got was a handwritten letter. It was written in a piece of paper, and I didn't know that my boyfriend kept it there. He kept it behind my phone under the pouch. I didn't even know that something was there. I think it was the day we met, and he just took my phone and he kept it there, so he didn't tell me. So the morning of my birthday, he just called me. He was like, okay, can you check the back of your phone and bring out whatever you see there? And that was how I brought out the paper. Oh, I should have just brought the paper. I'll have showed you guys. I still have the paper in my purse. I've removed it from my phone. He brought the paper out, and he started and when I brought out the paper, I just read everything, and I was so emotional, and I was happy. Yeah, so little things like this, they go a long way, and you'll be surprised. I learned an important lesson about words of affirmation and love languages in Little Rock, Arkansas. My visit with Bill and Betty Joe was a beautiful spring day. They lived in a cluster home with white picket fence, green grass, and spring flowers in full bloom. It was idyllic. Once inside, however, I discovered that the idealism ended. Their marriage was in shambles. 12 years and 2 children after the wedding, they wondered why they had married in the first place. They seemed to disagree on everything. The only thing they really agreed on was that they both loved the children. As the story unraveled, my observation was that Bill was a workaholic who had little time left over for Betty Joe. Betty Joe worked part-time, mainly to get out of the house. Their method of coping was withdrawal. They tried to put distance between themselves so that a conflict would not seem as large, but the gauge on both love tanks read empty. They told me that they had been going for marriage counseling but didn't seem to be making much progress. They were attending my marriage seminar, and I was leaving town the next day. This would likely be my only encounter with Bill and Betty Joe. I decided to put all my eggs in one basket. I spent an hour with each of them separately. I listened intently to both stories. I discovered that, in spite of the emptiness of their relationship and their many disagreements, they appreciated certain things about each other. Bill acknowledged she's a good mother. She is also a good housekeeper and an excellent cook when she chooses to cook. But he continued, there is simply no affection coming from her. I work my butt off, and there is simply no appreciation. In my conversation with Betty Joe, she agreed that Bill was an excellent provider, but she complained he does nothing around the house to help me, and he never has time for me. What's the use of having the house, the recreational vehicle, and all other things if you don't get to ever enjoy them together? With that information, I decided to focus my advice by making only one suggestion to each of them. I told B and Betty Joe separately that each one held the key to changing the emotional climate of their marriage. That key, I said, is to express verbal appreciation for the things you like about the other person, and for the moment, suspending your complaints about the things you didn't like. We reviewed the positive comments they had already made about each other, and helped each of them write a list of positive traits. Billy's sorry, I'm not feeling too well. That's why if you notice, I've just been reading. I've not really been expressing or expressive like my usual self. I'm under the weather. So that's why. Sorry. Maybe tomorrow will be better. But let's just finish this chapter 4, and tomorrow we'll start with chapter 5. Bill's list focused on housekeeper and cook. Betty Joe's list focused on Bill's hard work and financial provision of the family. We made the list as specific as possible. Betty Joe's list looked like this. He hasn't missed a day of work in 12 years. He's aggressive in his work. He has received several promotions through the years. He's always thinking of ways to improve his productivity. He makes the house payments each month. He also pays the electric bill, the gas, the water bill. He bought us a recreational vehicle 3 years ago. He owns the grass or hire someone to do it each week in the spring and summer. He rakes the leaves or hires someone to do it in the fall. He provides plenty of money for food and clothing for the family. He carries the garbage out about once a month. He provides the money for me to buy Christmas present for my family. He agrees that I can use the money I make at my part-time job and anywhere I desire. Bill's list looks like this. She makes the bed every day. She vacuums the house every week. She gets the kids off to school every morning with a good breakfast. She cooks dinner about three days a week. She buys the groceries. She helps the children with their homework. She transports the children to school and church activities. She teaches first grades on the school. She takes my clothes to the cleaner. She does the washing and some ironing. I suggested that they add to the list things they notice in the weeks ahead. I also suggested that twice a week they select one positive trait and express verbal appreciation for it to the spouse. I gave one further guideline. I told Betty Jo that if Bill happened to give her a compliment, she was not to give him a compliment at the same time, but rather she should simply receive it and say, "Thank you for saying that." I told Bill the same thing. I encouraged them to do that every week for 2 months, and if they found it helpful, they could continue. If the experiment did not help the emotional calming for the married, then they could write it off as another failed attempt. The next day, I got on the plane and returned home. I made a note to call Bill and Betty Jo 2 months later to see what had happened. When I called them in midsummer, I asked to speak to each of them individually. I was amazed to find that Bill's attitude had taken a giant step forward. He had guessed that I had given Betty Jo the same advice I had given him, but that was all right. He loved it. She was expressing appreciation for his hard work and his provision for the family. She has actually made me feel like a man again. We've got a way to go, Dr. Chapman, but I really believe you're on the road. When I talked to Betty Jo, however, I found that she had only taken a baby step forward. She said it has improved. It has improved some, Dr. Chapman. Bill is giving me verbal compliments as he suggested, and I guess he's sincere, but Dr. Chapman is still not spending any time with me. He's still so busy at work that we have no time together. As I listened to Betty Jo, the light came on. I knew that I had made a significant discovery. The love language of one person is not necessarily the love language of another. It was obvious that Billy's primary love language was words of affirmation. He was a hard worker and he enjoyed his work, but what he wanted most from his wife was expression of appreciation for his work. That pattern was probably set in childhood, and the need for verbal affirmation was no less important in his adult life. Betty Jo, on the other hand, was emotionally crying out for something else. Positive words were fine, but a deep emotional longing is for something else. That brings us to love language number 2. Yeah, so now, if your spouse's love language is words of affirmation, number 1, to remind yourself that words of affirmation is your spouse's primary love language, print the following on 3x5 card and put it in a mirror or other place where you will see it. Words are important, words are important, words are important. For 1 week, keep a written all the words of affirmation. The words of affirmation give your spouse each day, and at the end of the day, sit down with your spouse and review your record. On Monday, okay, I don't think I need to do this. Okay, so guys, I'm a bit I'm not feeling fine, guys. I just came today. I'm so sorry that today's reading, maybe I've not been seeing people. There's no particular person that's been going out and coming in. Yeah, maybe that's why, but we're done with chapter 4, and tomorrow I pray tomorrow will be better. I'll be fine by then. We'll do chapter 5. We'll continue on chapter 5, but we are done with words of affirmation. So go and read it on your own to digest it. And see you tomorrow, guys. Bye.